Hi guys, it's One Love Ted, and it's time for Ted's Afternoon Stories. I'm reading from the Pushcart War by Jean Merrill, and this is chapter 24, The Portlette Papers, the Lima Master Plan, and the Plot to Capture Maxie Hammerman, from the shorthand notes of Miriam Portlette. So a lot of this chapter is written in dialogue with a parentheses around each of the name of the speaker. Just so you know, that it's the Portlette Papers. The truck drivers, when they heard that Maxie Hammerman had been released, were furious. At a meeting of the three on May 17th, Big Mo, the Tiger, and Louis Livergreen decided to take matters into their own hands. This involved a plot to kidnap Maxie Hammerman. This plot is known because a cleaning woman, a young lady named Miriam Portlette, was cleaning an office next to the Lima office where the three met to plot against Maxie. Miriam would have paid no attention to the discussion she heard through the open transom of Louis Livergreen's headquarters if it had not been that she was studying shorthand at an adult education class on her nights off. Miriam Portlette was studying shorthand notes in hopes of getting a better office job than the one she had. It was Miriam's ambition to have an office job with daytime hours so that she would not miss the evening television shows. On that night, the three men in Louis Livergreen's office, Miriam Portlette's shorthand assignment for the week was to take shorthand note of a meeting. This assignment was a problem for Miriam. As she worked nights, she did not get to attend many meetings. So when Miriam realized that some men were holding a meeting in the office next to the one she was cleaning, she sat down on her mop bucket in the hall outside Louis Livergreen's office and took down the whole meeting in shorthand notes on the backs of some order blanks that she had found in a wastebasket. The original copy of Miriam's notes, now known as the Portlette Papers, is in the Rare Documents collection of the New York Public Library. A translation of the notes by Miriam's shorthand teacher reads as follows. Shorthand notes of a meeting by Miriam Portlette, Adult Education Class 2G, Seward Park High School. Dear Mr. Serwinski, that was her teacher's name. 4 men, which she thought were 4 men, but were really 3 men. 4 men are meeting together. Their names are Mr. Big Mo, Mr. Walter, Mr. Tiger, and Mr. Louis. I could not take shorthand notes of the very beginning of this meeting as I had to look for some paper to make notes on. But the men were talking at first about ladies' hats and a movie star, and I do not think this was an important part of the meeting. I think that the important part began when Mr. Louis said, "Let's get down to business." And by then I had found some paper and a pencil. Mr. Louis, let's get down to business. You called the meeting, Big Mo. What is the meeting about? Mr. Big Mo, it is about Maxie Hammerman. I don't care what the police commissioner says. There is obviously a pushcart experiment. By experiment, he actually meant conspiracy. Mr. Walter, it is logical. The pushcarts have the best reason to be fighting the trucks of anyone in the city. The police commissioner does not know that, but we do, Mr. Big Mo. So we have got to expose the experiment. Conspiracy. Mr. Louis, why expose? Expose, and it may be exposed that the truck started it all by hitting the pushcarts. Mr. Big Mo, so what do you suggest, Louis? Mr. Louis, do we have a master plan or do we not? I do not want to waste any more time on the pushcarts. Mr. Big Mo, certainly we have a master plan. We are all in favor of the Lima master plan, but to get rid of the pushcarts is the first part of the master plan. Until we get rid of the pushcarts, we cannot get the trucks on the street to carry out the second part of the master plan. Mr. Louis, the pushcarts are easy, Maxie Hammerman. It is clear is the brains behind the pushcart experiment. conspiracy. Get rid of Maxie Hammerman and the rest of the peddlers will give up. I know pushcart peddlers. No fight. Would a man be in a small business like the pushcart business if he had any fighting spirit? Mr. Tiger. Some people like a small business. They say you know the customer. Mr. Louis. Customers? Who wants to know the customers? It is because they do not have the guts for a big business, and I guarantee the pushcart peddlers would not be fighting without a very strong leader. Mr. Bigmo. So we must get rid of Maxie Hammerman, as Louis says, but how? Mr. Louis. We will kidnap him. Then we have a choice. Mr. Bigmo. A choice? Mr. Louis. A choice of how to get rid of him. We can torture him until he feels like giving the police commissioner a full confession that is guaranteed to get every pushcart peddler in the city locked up. Or, if he does not want to confess it, he could just disappear, and we will knock off the rest of the pushcarts one by one. Do we have to kill off all the pushcarts? Oh, Mr. Tiger. Do we have to kill off all the pushcarts? It is, after all, the cars and the taxis and the buses that are in our way. As you said, Louis, why waste time on the pushcarts? Mr. Louis, we have to make an example of the pushcarts. Mr. Tiger, an example? Mr. Louis, example, for the cars and taxis. Example, for example, of what happens if a vehicle does not get out of the way of a truck. When we start on the cars, it is going to be tougher. The trucks are bigger, but there are 4 million cars in the city, and it will be very useful when we start on the cars. If all over the city people are whispering, remember what happened to the pushcarts? Mr. Big Mole. You understand, Tiger? Mr. Louis. If we are going after 4 million cars, it is necessary that the cars should be scared when we start to hit them. They are a little bit afraid now, but not so afraid that they would give up without fighting. Mr. Walter. To tell the truth, I am not so crazy about going after the cars. Mr. Big Mole. But that is the idea of the master plan. Mr. Louis. You have got to think ahead, Walter. There is not enough room for everybody in the streets. Why should people drive around the city for pleasure when they could take a bus? Get rid of the cars, and I can put 200 leaping llamas on the streets. Get rid of the cars, and Big Mo can operate 50 more mighty mammoths, and I don't know how many more mama mammoths and baby mammoths, and Tiger Trucking can put on the streets double the number of 10-ton Tigers you are now operating. Mr. Tiger. Frankly, I got enough trucks now. It is just that traffic is so bad. Mr. Bigmo. But that is the point, Tiger. Traffic is so bad that everybody will be wanting to get rid of the trucks if we do not get rid of them first. Mr. Louis. You see, Walter, the master plan is in self-defense. We got no choice. Mr. Walter. I suppose you are right, Louis. So the plan is we finish the pushcarts. Then the cars. Mr. Bigmo, then the taxis. Mr. Louis, then the small trucks. Mr. Tiger, trucks, but we are fighting to make the streets safe for the trucks. Mr. Louis, for big trucks. Small trucks are as much a nuisance as cars and taxis. They are not efficient. One leaping llama can take the place of 5 small trucks. A small truck is as bad as a pushcart. Mr. Bigmo, Louis is right, Walter. Don't cry over small trucks. Mr. Walter, but we have not told the truck drivers that small trucks are part of the master plan. Half the trucks in the city are small trucks. A lot of truckers will not go along with the fight if it is going to be their funeral at the end. Mr. Bigmo, so who's telling them? Listen, Walter, the Tiger, the 3 of us have been friends for a long time, but if you do not stop talking like a small businessman, I am going to say that 2 heads are better than 3. Mr. Louis, we all agreed to the master plan a long time ago before the secret meeting in Mo Mammoth's garage. Mr. Tiger, but when you told us the plan, Louis, you did not mention the small trucks. Mr. Louis, it occurred to me later. Anyway, we do not get to the small trucks until we take care of the cars and the taxis, and we cannot take care of them until we take care of Maxie Hammerman. who is going to kidnap Maxie? We could each send half a dozen drivers. No, the few people who know what has happened to Maxie Hammerman, the better. We will go ourselves. Just the three of us? 3 is not enough to take one man who is not expecting to be kidnapped. When will we do it? I'm free next Friday. But that is the night we play cards with the mayor. Tell the mayor we will have a late game. All right. Now, how shall we handle Maxie? Mr. Louis, you want a leaping Lima for the job? Mr. Big Mouth. No, Louis. We do not need a truck for a little trip like this. We will take my bulletproof Italian car. The notes are signed, yours truly, Miriam Portlette. P.S. An explanation to her teacher. I did not stay to the end of the meeting as I had 3 more offices to mop, but I think it was almost over. M. Portlette. As far as Miriam Portlette was concerned, the meeting in Louis Livergreen's office was just a meeting. She did not know anything about the trucking business or the pushcart business, nor had she heard that there was a war going on because she did not read the newspapers and always missed the evening news on television as she worked late. Miriam simply copied down what the 3 said at the meeting and turned in her notes to the teacher of her adult education class. She had no idea that she had been present at a historic occasion. The teacher of Miriam's adult education class, however, did read the newspapers, and he listened to every news program on television. In addition, Miriam's teacher lived next door to Eddie Maroney and went bowling with Eddie every Tuesday night. As a result, he was well informed about all the trouble that the pushcarts had been having with the trucks. So when Miriam handed in her shorthand notes to be corrected, her teacher realized at once that they were important. He apparently copied them off, or at least those parts he could read, and he gave this copy of the notes to Eddie Maroney. Eddie, in turn, passed on the notes to Maxie Hammerman, and the notes undoubtedly saved Maxie's life. And that is chapter 24, and I'll be back with chapter 25, the 3 against 1 gamble and the capture of the bulletproof Italian car. Thanks for listening.